I'm Ginny Metheral, I'm a 4th generation witch. In today's video, I want to look at all the rites, traditions and rituals that you might use to celebrate the vernal equinox, which is the witch's Sabbath that we call Ostara. So what is Ostara? How will we celebrate it? Where does this all come from? Is it a load of rubbish? Well, let's take a quick look. Ostara is one of the neo-pagan 8 Sabbats of the year. The neo-pagans in the 1950s, under the great aegis of Gerald Gardner, produced the Wheel of the Year. We had loosely followed something very similar, but they more formalised it. And one of the 8 main Sabbats of the year is known as Ostara, which is the vernal equinox. Vernal equinox is a time when the world is considered to be in balance, and it happens twice a year. In the spring, as we are now, vernal means spring, and in the autumn, which happens around the 20th, 21st of September, around those dates. It is a seasonal event, it happens every single year, but it is obviously a marking of the passing of time, which is incredibly important not just to our ancestors, but to us as well. This was marked by a lot of celebrations. In so many cultures throughout history, we have celebrated the vernal equinox in a differing but substantial way. The Phoenicians built sphinxes, like the Egyptians, to the vernal equinox. The Romans might have been a bit naughty and done something wrong to some Sabine nuns. However, the point I'm trying to make is that the vernal equinox has been considered a sacred time, a festival time, throughout us and our ancestral history. There's lots to celebrate about the vernal equinox. I mean, the sun finally is going to take over the lighter half of the year. We are going to come to more daylight than night, thank goodness. It is a solar festival, after all. We're celebrating the lengthening days of the sun. And with that, it's always been associated with a solar goddess. Our ancestors considered this time of year very feminine in its format. You know, there was a lot of goddess worship going on. And the Anglo-Saxons had their famed solar goddess Easter, from which we get the Christian Easter from. I mean, there's no two ways about it. You can't say, oh, well, it's just a coincidence. It's not. Easter comes directly from the Anglo-Saxon goddess Easter, who's named in several texts. Goddess Easter was the goddess of the sunrise. And so, of course, the main thing that you would do on Ostara is to get up with the sunrise, go to the highest hill and watch the sun as it comes up over the landscape. You will also, at this point, have the exceptionally wonderful thing of seeing the sun dance. There's plenty of stories about people waking up on Easter or Ostara morn to go out and see the sun dance. This is such a big thing to see the sun dance that our ancient ancestors would often watch the reflection of the sun in a bucket of water, because the movement of the water would then make the sun dance as it came up, because this would give you luck. It is also a glorious thing to do to celebrate Ostara, isn't it? To get up and at the crack of dawn, go out and see the sunrise. I think my dogs would be in heaven chasing all the hares that are flying around here. Because that, of course, is the other thing that Ostara is all about: hares. I mentioned this in my last video on March, which I'll put up here for you should you want to look at it, and it goes into quite a lot of detail about March hares. Oh, yeah. Hares are, of course, a symbol of the goddesses at this time. Lots and lots of goddesses have hares as their personal familiar or shape-shifting form. And hares, therefore, are internally built up with Easter, which is where we get our Easter bunny from. Et voila! And finally, the third thing that Ostara is completely bound up with is, of course, eggs. The birds are nesting and egg laying is becoming abundant at this time of year. And eggs, of course, are symbols of rebirth and renewal. And so one of my favourite things to do, and this is an incredibly old spell and custom, which was performed by our Anglo-Saxon forebears, is to take your eggs and to paint or draw on them the symbols of what you wish for in the coming year, be it joy, love, wealth, happiness, children, whatever. You bury them in the Mother Earth. Mother Earth will hear your cries and nurture those wishes to fulfillment. That is one of the oldest spells that I've ever come across. Our ancient ancestors would also offer blood sacrifice at this time. You will often see eggs painted red. This was said to symbolise the blood of the earth that was going to be spilt on the fields to create the power needed to get a good harvest. It wasn't necessarily human sacrifice that they were performing, it would have been animals or, precious beasts to them. Horses were incredibly popular in Anglo Saxon times and were worshipped by our pagan forebears, as is evident from the number of white horses that we have scattered over our beautiful native land, which are several thousand years old. The other thing our ancient ancestors would do was to appease the fae at the moment, because there are plenty of fairies that live in around the rocks and the fields and the barns and our homes and the woods of this area who will help bring forth the earth. And so it was a appeasement to them, or an offering to them, that people would leave out milk or butter or flowers or whatever they thought the fairies might enjoy in order to appease their mischievous nature. Now, I know that the fairies are beginning to start being mischievous at the moment because they're coming out of their winter, slumbers or whatever it is that they have. And they're beginning to be a bit mischievous because I have lost, in the last 3 weeks, I have lost an aquamarine ring, my grimoire, and my phone, which is possibly the oddest of all because my phone was Bluetoothed into my car and I'd been driving along. I spoke to my child and suddenly it cut out and I never saw my phone again. I've had to buy a bloody new one. It's really annoying. I'm pretty sure it's the fairies at work. It's either that or there's a big black hole in my house, but it's quite annoying. This time of year is really personified by the colour yellow. Got the yellow of the flowers, primroses, the daffodils, the cowslips, and the humble dandelion. Now, one of the things that you should do on Ostara is to make dandelion tea. Why, you may ask? Why? Well, dandelion tea will help you develop and open your third eye. Now, if you'd like to develop and open your third eye, what dandelion tea will bring to you is the ability to sense and converse with the Fae. Now, I have been conversing with the Fae for a long time, but I think the first time that I really did it, it was because I was using dandelions. So I would recommend that you try it. It is very simple. Take the flower petals of the dandelion and steep those in hot water, add honey to taste, et voila, you have a perfect dandelion tea. The other thing that dandelions bring to you is great charms. And at this time, one of the charms that you might do for Ostara is to take a dandelion seed head, call in the four corners, and then blow your wish to them. And as you blow the puffball of the seed heads, your wish, the four corners, would come true. As I've mentioned, this is the time for the goddess. This goddess, whether she be Easter, Bridget, Fritha, whichever goddess that you choose to, they're always associated with not just the sun, but also the dawn and flowers, as in the goddess Flora. So I have an old book here which is about popular antiquities of Great Britain. It's basically the folklore of Great Britain, written in about 1870. I can't quite read it because the text is written with the letter F and the letter S being the same. So it's quite difficult to read. This one claims that that wonderful old nursery rhyme, and forgive my singing here, but it goes, ride a cock horse to Banbury Cross to see a fine lady ride on a white horse. With rings on her fingers and bells on her toes, she will have music wherever she goes. Is about the goddess who's supposed to ride forth at this time, not some ancient lady of Banbury. I mean, people have ascribed this fairy tale to an ancient lady of Banbury, but I think that was just them saying, oh, madam, this is definitely about you, as opposed to what they actually think it was, which is about the goddess riding on her white horse. We're coming into the revels that is going to be May Day and the wild, exuberant celebrations that happen on the 1st of May. But this time is a time of harmony and balance. And it is a time of sort of sitting still almost, which is why we go up and look at the sun dancing before our eyes on the early morn. There is a lot of very famous pagan Neolithic structures around our lands which are aligned with the spring equinox. One of my favourites of these Neolithic structures is forgive my pronunciation here, I'm not sure if I've got it quite right, is La Huibi, which is on Jersey. This is We Don't Know. We think it was a burial chamber, but we don't know. What we do know is that on the vernal equinox, and only the vernal equinox, the interior of it is lit up by the rising sun. Anyway, this particular structure, the Christians, as you can see, have built a chapel to Our Lady of the Dawn. So they knew it was something to do with the goddess Easter, Ostara, because it's aligned with the vernal and the autumnal equinox. I suspect there's more to it than just a burial mound. I mean, it obviously was used as a burial mound. Whether it was first created as a burial mound, we just don't know. I think not. It is obviously in honour of the sun because the eerie pink sandstone interior does light up with a lovely rosy dawn colour on the vernal equinox. If you ever get a chance, go and have a look. Jersey is a beautiful country to visit anyway, and so rich in history. And this is one of the oldest Neolithic sites that we have at 4000 BC. I just want to give a quick shout out to Sarah from the Persephone shop. The Persephone shop sent me this beautiful English fluorite from the Fairy Hole Pocket in County Durham. It's incredibly rare, these fluorites, and she asked me to tell you about her shop, and she has given me a code for a 15% discount off site-wide. She does some beautiful clothes and some beautiful crystals, so go and have a look. Her address is on screen now, and just put in Ginny to receive your 15% discount. And I have to say, the energy coming off this is quite something. So Ostara really is a time of the sun. It's a time to give eggs in decorated and varying colours, to write your wishes upon them, bury them in the earth. And it is a time for quiet contemplation of our future. If you want to know more about this, do go to patreon.com/Ginny Metheral. I'm putting up a new tier very shortly, doing a course, and it's quite cheap. It's a correspondence course that is done directly with me. So I will mark your homework. Personally, it's me marking your homework, not anyone else. And please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it would make my Ostara. Hope you enjoy this seasonal Sabbath, and I will see you in my next video.